So a couple days ago, Axios released this brand new article detailing a potential plan by President Trump to primary out even more Republicans, not just through the end of the year, but even into 2028, which I think is a pretty big deal because guess what? After 2028, Trump is out of office. I know some people claim he wants to run for a third term and that he's planning on never leaving, but guys, he's done. After 2028, he will not be the president. He will be gone on January 20th, 2029. So the fact that President Trump is not only going to still be involved in Republican politics, obviously, but apparently he's going to go even further in 2028 when theoretically it wouldn't matter to him. After 28, why would it care to him? It's as if he still realizes that, hey, after he's gone, he wants to make sure that his legacy is secured. He wants to make sure that JD Vance or Marco Rubio or whoever else actually has a good Republican Party to work with, has a real majority in the House and the Senate. That's why this is a big deal. And I really want to go over how big of a deal this could really be. Fresh off his takedowns of GOP dissenters in this month's primaries, President Trump is already making a list of Republicans who could be on his 2028 chopping block. Trump's string of primary wins over GOP adversaries has reaffirmed his dominance over the party, and now he's looking to extend that influence after he leaves office in January 2029. Do not ever doubt President Trump and his political power. Fuck around, find out. And yeah, I think it's clear as day, President Trump, even though there's been some issues in the last couple of months over the war in Iran and some other stuff with immigration, that's true. Guess what? The average Republican voter, they're not only still very pro-Trump, but his endorsement is still, for a lot of people, the number one thing. So when he backs a primary challenger to anybody, most of the time, that person is going to probably lose. Of course, there are some exemptions to the rule. I get that. But most of the time, when he primaries somebody out or backs a challenger to them, they're going to probably lose, and by a big margin. Like what we saw in Louisiana, Bill Cassidy suffered one of the most pathetic primary defeats I have ever seen. Massey's loss followed a weekend in which another of Trump's longtime targets, Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, who drew Trump's wrath 5 years ago by voting to convict him for his role in the January 6th riot, failed to make a runoff for the Senate. And like we talked about, that was pathetic. That is the most pathetic primary defeat potentially ever. This week, Trump hasn't been shy about identifying possible future targets in his party. And I should be clear about this. While I am glad he's going after people like Bill Cassidy, John Cornyn, these awful Republicans, that's good. And most of the time, we are getting good upgrades. The problem is, at the same time, there are some people Trump might target that are actually pretty good, and I don't think really deserve a primary challenge. Now, one of the people Trump has talked about lately, and really not out of nowhere, but it's been kind of surprising, is Lauren Boebert. Lately, President Trump has been attacking Boebert, and he called her weak-minded and very difficult. And the president was infuriated that Boebert campaigned for Massey, and that's a legitimate issue I could see with Trump having with Boebert. Like, I don't get what Boebert was doing. There was absolutely zero upside in backing Thomas Massey. But she did anyways. I just don't get it. Why? That was a sinking ship from the get-go. Like, I'm just confused. What did she think was going to happen? You're going to piss off Trump. It is stupid. Now, Lauren Boebert, on the issues, yes, she is, on average, better than most Republicans. That's true. And if that was it with Boebert, she made one tiny mistake, whatever. But at the same time, even before this Thomas Massey stuff, everybody knows Lauren Boebert's had a bunch of stupid scandals. We're not even going to talk about the theater stuff. For those that don't know, graphic warning. If you want to look it up, just it's disgusting. But either way, Lauren Boebert, yes, she's better on the issues than most Republicans. But at the same time, she brings so much bullshit media attention, I don't think it's really worth it. Now, do I think Trump should focus on Boebert? No. I think there are far worse people in the House and the Senate especially to focus on, to target some of these awful Republicans. But I do understand why Trump is going after somebody like Lauren Boebert. Now, the next person on the list is somebody that I agree with Trump on, Rand Paul. Rand Paul has to go. 10 years ago, fine. He was, in comparison, one of the better people in the Senate. Compared to how awful people like John McCain were, yeah, Rand Paul was probably a top 5 guy in the Senate. But being better than John McCain and Mitch McConnell and God knows who else, does that really mean Rand Paul is a great senator? No, not really. Yes, sometimes he's correct on some issues. I'm not denying that. And he is better than Thomas Massey, but that's not really saying much. Rand Paul, you should not have a Rand Paul type in Kentucky. Now, there's a good chance come 28, you don't even have to primary the guy out. He actually is going to run for president. He's that stupid, and he really thinks his garbage libertarian message would somehow win the primary. No, it won't. It is stupid, it's delusional, but that's Rand Paul. So there's a good chance Rand Paul is gone even before a real primary challenger appears. And there's a good chance his replacement, it's somebody like Nate Morris, who, for those that don't know, he was the actual good Senate candidate in Kentucky this year. He had to drop out because he just didn't have enough support. Yes, he was polling in the low 20s, but he realized he wasn't going to win, and Trump made a deal with him to drop out, and they backed Andy Barr. But apparently, there is some speculation that Nate Morris made a deal with Trump where Trump would back him in a future Senate primary. Basically, what he did with Bernie Moreno back in Ohio in 2022. Bernie Moreno was getting like 2% of the vote, if that, and he dropped out, backed J.D. Vance. 2 years later, he was the next senator of Ohio. I really believe, and that's been the speculation, that's the real reason he dropped out. He knew he wasn't going to win. And instead of being a dumbass and trying to stay in the race and lose by an even bigger margin, he dropped out, made a deal with Trump, and now you're potentially going to replace Rand Paul. You go from Rand Paul to Nate Morris in 1 year. That's a big deal. So, of the people mentioned here, I support this. I think Rand Paul is somebody that's got to go. You should not have a libertarian type in Kentucky. Why the hell do we have this? It's just crazy to even suggest. Now, the other two people on the list, I disagree with. Warren Davidson, a very good congressman. He's a very good guy. He is great on most issues. I know he does some dumb votes once in a while, but most of the time, he is a team player. He is good on the issues. It's somebody that I get sometimes he does something dumb, but don't target Warren Davidson. He's a very good congressman. Just try to work with him next time. I know the Thomas Massey stuff was stupid, just like Boebert. But unlike Boebert, Davidson's even better on the issues, and he doesn't have the negative press. So I would say, yeah, Warren Davidson, I disagree with. And Brian Fitzpatrick, I have no clue why Trump even suggested this. Fitzpatrick is in a Harris district. I know it's Harris plus 0.1, but he is the only Republican that could actually win that seat. And not by a point. He wins by 30 points or 20 points or whatever every single year. He wins by big margins in a swing district. So I don't get why Trump went after somebody like Fitzpatrick. I think it's stupid. He's been a good team player. He is somebody that most of the time will vote in line. Sometimes he doesn't, but it's an actual excuse. Not like some of these Republicans that are plus 30 seats that vote no on everything because Trump said so. It's stupid, but Fitzpatrick is somebody that has a real excuse. But either way, you get the point that, yeah, President Trump, it seems like he is fully committed on going after a lot of Republicans in 2028. And that's a big deal. Like I said, he wants a clean house. He wants a clean house for J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or whoever. Whoever his successor really is, which I still think it's Vance, they're going to have a real House and Senate majority that functions. That's not dog shit ran by Thomas Massey where he votes no on everything because, well, honestly, most of the time he just votes no for the hell of it. But guys, we can actually clean house. And in fact, as of now, President Trump has done a great job just this year in cleaning house, especially on the Senate side. This is kind of how the Senate delegation looks as of now, right? This is the delegation as of now. And of course, some of these ratings are subjective, but right now, there are 7 Republicans you can really say are just terrible. Mitch McConnell, Bill Cassidy, Tom Tillis. These guys suck. There are 11 Republicans that are just bad. They're not as bad as Bill Cassidy, but that's not really saying much. There are 22 that are whatever. There are 9 that are good and 4 that are great. So there are more shit Republicans than good ones. That's the issue we have. That's why the Senate GOP, they can't accomplish anything. But what's happened the last few months in the primaries, it's been such a big shift. And I know we talked about this a million times, but look at the map right now. It's pretty bad. The Senate delegation right now, it's pretty shitty. It's gotten better in recent years, but it's still pretty bad. Well, after the primaries and what's probably going to happen in a place like Texas and a few other states, after this year, if we assume the map stays the exact same, Republicans don't gain a seat, Democrats gain nothing, it just stays the same except for the primary results. Look at this. You go from 7 terrible Republicans down to 3. And you still have 11 bad ones. But look at good and great. You go from a collective 13 good or great Republicans, you're up to 16 now. The awful Republicans in just 1 year basically go extinct. Like, yes, you still got Murkowski and a few others, but really the bad ones like Bill Cassidy and Tom Tillis, they're gone. And at this point, even if these 3 all vote no at the same time, it doesn't really matter because guess what? You still got 50 in the Senate. JD Vance is a tie-breaking vote. And if the same thing continues into 2028, and again, not an official prediction, but if Trump really to use his resources and influence to target even shittier Republicans in 28, well, after 28, again, assuming if nothing changes except we primary out some bad Republicans, there's a chance by the end of 2028, when Trump is out of office, by then, there would only be 1 terrible Republican and only 8 bad ones. While the good and great ones, they go from 16 to 20. Yeah. There is a big shift happening in the Senate as we speak. And there's a good chance if Trump targets people like John Thune and James Lankford, which honestly, why not? With how shit some of these guys are, it's time for them to go. And there are some really good options in Oklahoma and Indiana. And Trump still has a lot of influence. You could argue this is the most powerful he's been within the GOP ever. He still has a lot of influence. Seriously, we go from this delegation right now, which it's gotten better, but still pretty bad, to this. You now go from 13 good or great Republicans to 20. And the terrible ones, they're extinct. There's 1 bad one and that's it. There's a few other ones that have some bad votes once in a while. But outside of that, you actually have a functioning majority. Now, you don't have to worry about the same 4 people voting no on every single thing. That's why this is a big deal. And I really hope that Trump, he actually uses his influence to do this. There are some big changes that could happen in the GOP in the next 2 to 3 years. And if this happens, and if we somehow expand our Senate majority, JD Vance could theoretically do whatever the hell he wants to do. Because at that point, he would have a real House and Senate majority. Again, not a prediction, but you get the point. That's why this is a big deal. Anyways, folks, thank you so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy, smash the like button down below, subscribe, share with your friends, and of course, join the channel today. Godspeed to all of you.